Welcome back, everybody. This week we're going to go through the telltale signs that your therapist doesn't know what he's doing and what you can do about it. Your therapist probably doesn't know what he's doing, and you know how I know that is because I was getting lost on YouTube this past week. Yeah, I was getting a little bit lost, but I was also doing some research. That's the rationalization I tell myself. And I was coming across a bunch of YouTube channels of other psychologists out there, and everybody has a video how to tell that your therapist doesn't know what he's doing, how to tell that your therapist is a bad therapist, and you should probably get a new one. And all their signs weren't just signs of a bad therapist or a bad psychologist, they were signs of anybody who's bad in their profession. So one of the signs of a bad therapist that kept coming up was he doesn't listen. There's indications that he doesn't listen. Yeah, but if your architect doesn't listen, then he's a bad architect. If your lawyer doesn't listen to you, then he's a bad lawyer. It's not just about therapy. Another one that kept coming up, which just blows my mind. Oh, if your therapist is late. Yeah, if any profession is late, in any job that they do, that's an indication that they're probably not somebody good to work with. What is it specifically about psychology that indicates that this therapist may not know what they're doing? And I think the reason that all these psychologist channels on YouTube don't really delve into this is because they don't even know what the field of psychology is anyway. And of course, this issue I have a lot of resentment around, which I'm going to try to hide in this video. Not really, because I tried to get therapy, multiple times throughout my 20s, and whenever I went to a therapist, they were all awful. God awful. I have some real horror stories to tell. Okay, I'll tell you one. I went to this therapist, and it was in a nice office in a nice part of town. She had all these credentials on the wall, and it was during an election season. And you don't know what I had to do. But keep in mind, I was 20 or 22. I was talking her down on getting wrapped up in the election. She was thinking, oh, this is the biggest election of our lives. Oh, I just feel like I have to do something. She was using me as a therapist, just completely out to lunch. I got to a place in my life, I guess we're going to get into this video, I got to the place in my life where I really thought that I needed help, and I did need help. Not that there was anything seriously wrong with me, but there were issues I had to work through. And my first foray into therapy is some crazy old lady, blue hair, pink hair, I don't know, something was up with her hair, wearing the shawl, doing the whole thing, complained to me about the election. That's an obvious sign. We're not going to get into that in this video. We're just going to talk about maybe some indications that it's time to get a new therapist. The first one being is they give you advice. Now, on the surface of this, it may seem like, oh, advice. Well, that's why you would go to a therapist, right? To get advice. You don't know what to do, so you go to a therapist, you tell them your situation, and then they tell you what to do. But this is not the case. Therapy is not philosophy. It is psychology. Philosophy deals with the what to do. Psychology deals with the how to do it. And even the fact that your therapist or psychologist would give you advice indicates that they don't understand the purpose of therapy. Most people, when they go into therapy, it is after a long line of struggling, things not working out. 9 out of 10 times, they know exactly what they need to do, yet they can't bring themselves to do it, or they're doing something that they can't stop doing. Drinking, for instance, any other kind of addiction. I know I shouldn't be drinking. I know it's ruining my life, yet it's crazy. I can't stop doing it. This is a failure of will, not knowledge. And if your therapist thinks that you need knowledge, not a reaffirmation of your will, then they don't even understand the purpose of psychology in the first place. Disconnect. The second sign of a bad therapist kind of goes off the first one is they give you an assignment. Now, if you as the patient want to do something throughout the week and see what issues that doing that thing brings up in your life, like talking to your mom, I'm going to call my mom 3 times and then we're going to talk about those issues coming back, fine. But if your therapist gives you an assignment, then this goes off the first one. This is more like a 1A, a corollary of 1. then disconnect. If there's no challenge, if your therapist doesn't challenge you, you need to be triggered at least once every session. Otherwise, your therapist is most likely just taking your money, and the chances of this happening go up tenfold if he's getting insurance, or if your insurance is paying for it and you just have like a $10 or $15 copay. He will let you blab on and on without getting anywhere, without challenging you, because he doesn't want you to leave. He doesn't want to risk the interaction. It's easy money for him, and so he doesn't want you to leave, so he's not going to challenge you. And by challenge, I don't mean telling you that you're wrong, right? This is psychology. If it was philosophy, then somebody would be wrong, somebody would be right. It would be somebody's fault, somebody would be the victim. But this isn't philosophy, this is psychology. A challenge would just be maybe reflecting back what he sees. And maybe he sees it a little bit different than you see it. And just judging your reaction to that. That's all a challenge needs to be. It doesn't need to be some huge thing, but look, hey, from my perspective, this is what I see. But therapy is moving away from that right now. We're moving into postmodern therapy. It's either CBT or postmodern therapy. And postmodern therapy says, hey, I'm just the psychologist. What makes me so sure that I know more than you? This is just an even dyad, an even dialogue here. Nobody's more correct than anybody else. This therapist is wasting your time. You're the one who went to grad school. You're the one who chalked up all these hours of experience. You are the more finely polished mirror. Please reflect back to me what's going on from your perspective, even if you're wrong. Right? Wrong as the psychologist, it's still more helpful than not reflecting anything back and constantly validating everything that the patient's going through. Another indication that your therapist is a total waste is they use the word eclectic. I don't have a theoretical framework for understanding the unconscious. I am eclectic. I pull from different schools. That is a therapy speak for, I don't really understand psychology, so I'm just going to hedge my bets. Also, if your therapist is hardline CBT, I mean, most psychologists now are pretty CBT, but if they're hardline CBT and that's all they do, disconnect. It may work, but it only works in the short term. Please see my article, Why CBT Doesn't Work, and a bunch of other things I've done on this YouTube channel and animusempire.com. Talk about CBT and the total failure that it is. Another indication that your therapist doesn't know what he's talking about is he has you meditate during the session. I think meditation is extremely helpful. I think it can be extremely helpful when done in the appropriate way, in the organic way, the bottom up, not top down way. Go see my video on meditation to learn more about that. But when it's done in the session, this is a waste of time. Meditation is one of the most personal things you can do. To do it with somebody else, especially when you have limited time in the session, to waste time in the session meditating, doing a mindfulness meditation, we'll get to it, it's going to be a waste of your time. It's like when teachers have students read in school. No, reading's a personal thing. You can do that on your own. School is for something completely different. Therapy in the clinic is for something completely different. It's not for personal time. It's for you getting to the crux of your issues in a different way than meditation does. And then the final indication that your therapist is a loser is he uses the term mindfulness without telling you what exactly to be mindful of. And if it's just your thoughts, then chances are he's a cognitive behavioral therapist and you should have already disconnected anyways. Mindfulness, it's just a tool. Yeah, of course, mindfulness, duh. What are we mindful of? It's like an engineer talking about bolts. Yeah, you need bolts to build a skyscraper. How many bolts do we use? Where do they go? That's your job as the engineer, the architect, to tell us. Of course we need to be mindful to grow psychologically. What are we supposed to be mindful of? And this just indicates the deeper problem with psychology is there's no real theory for how it works. So you're going to go out there and meet a bunch of therapists, and a lot of them aren't really going to be able to help you because they don't even understand what psychology is anyway. So what are we going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to go out and train each psychologist individually? No, they're lost. They're completely out to lunch. They've They've been invested in these theories that go nowhere. Well, they're not even theories. They've been invested in these ideas, these spatterings of ideas that don't really go anywhere, whether it's postmodern therapy, multiculturalism, feminism, cognitive behavioral therapy. They're lost, but you're not. That's why I created a course, Unconscious Map, the course. So even if you don't find a great therapist like me, then you can still get good therapy. It teaches you what to talk about, exactly how to talk about it, what you need to get out of talking about each issue. We all go through the same issues. Of course, our experience around those issues is a little bit different, but we all go through the same issues. Go to animusempire.com/course to find out more. And I'll leave it there. Like and subscribe. Tell a friend about this. And most importantly, if you're in a relationship with a bad therapist, please do not feel bad about disconnecting.